I would say that it's important to just be informed. It's never too late to obviously to learn something new, and it's never too late to really just be woken up to the current problems with the current system and the current world, and that there is a better way to a better future. It really just never too late, obviously, to learn more, to be enlightened, to be unplugged. Never too late to learn more. It's never too late to be proven wrong, because Bitcoin's kind of like an ego test as well, even if you don't truly realize it. But to fully accept Bitcoin and to fully like understand it and to get it and decide to like convert over to it and use it, you need to acknowledge that everything you thought you knew was wrong when it comes to money and how you saw the world.
Welcome to the Orange Pilling Sessions, where we talk Bitcoin. I know what it felt like for me to be in the field of money and to navigate money before I understood Bitcoin and after. And that was such an enlightening moment for me, where I just feel this urge to pass it forward, pass it to the next person.
How you've talked about Bitcoin, there's been a real positivity and a joy around the subject, which was surprising to me because normally, again, money never had a joyous connotation.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Orange Pilling Sessions with Tal and Frieda, and we have Keith today as our guest. Keith, we talked about in our first episode because he is the master and author of a little article that I initially sent to Tal, one of the many artifacts that I had sent to Tal over the last couple of months to try to get her to be interested in Bitcoin. And Keith is the author of the article that she actually responded to and was like, okay, tell me a little bit more.
I didn't know this was the person.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
person.
What was the article?
What?
It was the one-on-one on Orange Pill, the Orange Pilling for beginners.
Like the guide, you mean?
The guide, the Orange
Oh, the
Pill.
big guide.
Yes.
The big guide.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Copy. There are the shorter articles, but yeah, the guy, the big one. Yes. Okay.
The big one. And I was actually surprised because it's a daunting task to read through long paragraphs in these days of ChatGPT. And so I was like, wow, Tal is a reader, and she is an audiobook listener, and she's also a podcast listener. And so I thought, what would be best to invite Keith personally? She could ask all the questions. And I think one of the pressing things that we haven't really covered is, we kind of went into a little bit of a history of money and all of this, but like a personal journey, besides my personal journey of why somebody would come and go with Bitcoin. And we would love to learn a little bit more about your history and your journey with money in general, because, some people have a finance background, finance degrees, and, we all assume the whole world is peppered with the people that have finance degrees, and only the people like us that don't have the finance degree are sitting in the corner not understanding money. But I don't think that's the truth. So I just wanted to ask you about your Bitcoin journey and any other questions that Tal has.
Okay. So yeah, my Bitcoin journey. I mean, I've officially been like down the rabbit hole for about a little over a year. I guess what today's June, like a year and a half. But it started a couple years ago, just like on being on the internet, being on Reddit, longtime Redditor, but treating it kind of as a meme, slight investment. But I really went down the rabbit hole more than a year ago, and I kind of just honestly, I don't really know what it was that truly like pushed me down the rabbit hole specifically. It was right before like Bitcoin Atlantis was happening in Madeira last year, which is a conference that's put on. Um, and yeah, I just was like absorbed with it and was really connecting and with the speeches, the keynotes and everything. And I'm a very curious person, introspective person, and very logical and science based. And it was everything was making sense, like from a strict like scientific and logical thing, and the mathematical obviously point of view. So I just went further and kept researching and went further and further, deeper and deeper. And when I like something, like become kind of obsessed with it and can't get enough. So that's kind of what happened and how I ended up down the rabbit hole.
We're always interested in the details of that. So you are traditionally raised in a world where you grew up in a family that has a little bit of money, no money, lots of money. You don't have to give us the numbers, but we're always interested in like the actual background of folks that step into Bitcoin and how exactly do they get there?
Okay. Yeah, I would come from the middle class, American middle class. Yeah, so pretty, I would say pretty middle class, like family of four. We would go on vacation maybe once, one big vacation a year, a couple other times, but money growing up, money was never like a big problem, or at least like if it was, my parents hid it from my brother and I. But yeah, we lived in the suburbs, in New Jersey, and yeah, so just middle class. So I never really thought too much about money. There was never like too much of it. There was never too little of it. Everything just kind of always seemed like we were living pretty well, and like there was just we were living with just the amount that we needed, I guess. So I never really thought much about money growing up.
So when you first had your first job, you got a paycheck, you paid for the things like I feel like everybody that comes into Bitcoin at some point runs into at least one instance where they're like, there must be something better. Did that happen for you?
Honestly, no. I mean, I got my first job when I was like 16, working at a Walgreens, the pharmacy chain in the U.S. And
Right.
I've always been like, I guess, a saver, just wanting to save money, and just like because I have a lot of, I guess, discipline when it comes to buying stuff. I'm not very impulsive. Like even if it's something small, like I'll have to thoroughly research it. Do I really need it? Like I live without it. Maybe if I wait a week, maybe I'll realize I actually don't need it. So once I started working, yeah, I just would save a lot, and yeah, I would always be a saving kind of person. But there was never honestly like a big moment. There was never like a rock bottom, I guess, financially. There was nothing that like pushed me into Bitcoin. It was really just like curiosity and interest and being super intrigued by this that really led me further down the rabbit hole. And just like then obviously the more you find out, you realize that you really know nothing. It's kind of one of those things with Bitcoin. And because of just the way I am, I just wanted to know more and more and more, and just was super like hungry for more information. Like how can I learn as much as I possibly can about this? But yeah, unfortunately I wish there was like a better story. Like I'd be like, oh, there was this one moment that happened and it was all clear. But no, unfortunately it didn't really happen for me. It was just interest and intrigue, and yeah, pretty much that.
So when you came across the Reddit forum or whatever, what was it that like caught your eye? Or was there a personal friend, that led you to Bitcoin? Like, why would you read up about it in the first place? Or what caught your attention about it? Because God knows there's way too many shitcoins out there. And why didn't you go with one of those?
I think just being a longtime Redditor, over the past like, I don't know, 12, 10 years, it would occasionally pop up as like in memes. I guess during the bull run, looking back, whenever it was in the bull run, it would be in memes a lot. And then during the pandemic and the whole GameStop fiasco, I got involved with Wall Street bets, and I realized that they didn't like Bitcoin in there. And that's also in the same time that it also became a bit more mainstream. It's around the FTX time, before the crypto winter and everything happened. Um, but it was really just, I guess, Wall Street bets and just the general Reddit as a whole, whenever it was like a popular meme or whatever. And obviously you'd always stumble upon it in comments every so often. But that was really it. There wasn't like a main subreddit aside from Wall Street bets that I truly frequented. Like I didn't go to like our Bitcoin, the Bitcoin subreddit. Uh, at that time, no. At least I don't think I did. No.
Did you ever invest in stocks or any other shitcoins prior to investing in
Yeah.
Bitcoin?
Yeah, stocks. Yeah, definitely stocks, before Bitcoin and then at the same time, but, no, I live full Bitcoin standard. I mean, there's obviously some retirement accounts that I can't unfortunately allocate, but pretty much if I have control of the money, it's in Bitcoin. Um, and, no, I mean, I had a little bit of I still actually do have a tiny bit. It's actually because I can't sell it. 'Cause I don't kind of forget to pass it into my wallet, but I have a little bit of Cardano, like literally like maybe $100 worth that I bought a couple years ago, and one of my dad's coworker was just telling him about it, and I started like buying a little bit, and I also bought a tiny bit of Ethereum, one purchase, and then but I sold that off years ago. But thankfully, I kind of skipped the whole shitcoiny phase. Um,
Lucky you.
yeah, so no, I'm a hardcore Bitcoin for at
Now,
least a year. Yeah.
feel free to ask all the questions of why Bitcoin. Yes, you got.
Yeah. Why Bitcoin?
Yes, and well done on that article. It really did,
Thanks.
um, capture,
Yeah.
things for me. I was like, rabbit hole indeed. I felt like I was in a Matrix movie. I was like, wow.
He
Um
found value in it.
What would you suggest for a newcomer to this world of Bitcoin? Where do we start? What do we do with this information? What do you suggest we dig into?
Like from the very, I think, well, I think it's fundamental. It's paramount to first have an understanding of money. Because if you think about it, we're not, at least in the US, and it seems worldwide, we're not really taught what money is. Um, and until you, and like no one actually knows what money is unless you learn about it and you choose to learn about it. People, we think we know what money is. I thought I knew what money was, but once you start to learn about it and what it actually is and its whole function and everything, um, yeah, that's when you kind of just realize that what we've been doing for the past several decades is completely just like nonsense. And it's completely like I think decades from now, we'll look back and be like, "Oh my god, how did we allow 12 people, like the Federal Reserve, to essentially control the money for the entire world?" I think we'll look back on that as an absurd concept. So I think, yeah, fundamental, it's to gain a basic understanding of the three properties of money. I'm not sure if you've been over them, but unit of account, medium of exchange, and store of value, which is probably the most elusive one. Because the dollar is, a unit of account, medium of exchange, but it's not a store of value, as are all the other fiat currencies. So I think, yeah, the basic understanding of what money is paramount because you won't understand money unless you first understand money. You won't understand Bitcoin unless you first understand money. And also a key thing is also understanding proof of work and why that's important for Bitcoin.
Can you say more about proof of work?
Okay,
What
sorry,
that
what did I-
means?
Yeah,
Can
so proof of
can you
work.
say more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, so do you know? I'm not sure how deep we want to go, but do you know like why gold has value specifically?
I was brought up to speed a little bit on our last episode, but give me your rundown on things.
Well, people tend to think that just because it's scarce is because it has its value, which yes, that is part of the reason. But really, it's if you think about how much time and energy and people and effort it takes to actually one, find where the gold is in the ground, two, bring a lot of machinery there and a lot of people there, and two, three, excavate it all, put it in the trucks, bring it away, break it down, refine it, and put it into an exchangeable form. That is really why that's where the majority of the value in gold would be derived from. There's a lot of time and energy, a lot of work. Because to quote Jack Mallers, who I'm not sure you know, is a CEO of Strike, a Bitcoin company, is a large voice in the field. But like money is your time and your energy in the abstract form. You give your time, you give your energy to work, and you're rewarded money. So yeah, gold requires a lot of time and time and energy to create, and as such, the proof of work concept of Bitcoin would be the mining, in that it requires a lot of energy, real world electricity, and time, 10 minutes on average, to mine a block and to introduce Bitcoin into the world. So without this very key aspect, um, it's what keeps the network secure and is what keeps really gives a lot of the value to everything because it requires work, proof of work. You can't fake it. You can't fake your way, much like you can't fake your way to mining gold. You can't fake your way to getting more Bitcoin. You can only A, mine it, or B, buy it. You can't counterfeit it. You can't, do whatever. Same thing with gold. So that's really why it all comes down to.
And on the mining, we will dive into this into a future episode. Just want to high level that as to, when the fiat world or the regular folks that print the regular lifestyle newspapers don't like Bitcoin most of the time. It's changed a little bit, but there was a long phase where it was always torn down as in, well, it's so volatile. Bitcoin is so volatile, goes up and down all the time. You can't trust it. And that it is not good for our nature, that it's, polluting because it takes so much energy, which you just, high level, Bitcoiners actually partner all over the world with individual factories and states, and they use, for example, when coal is being mined, there's the flare gas that's coming out, and that is usually just going into the environment. And now we actually put a Bitcoin miner there that can use this energy that would just go to waste normally, and we make use of that. So even though Bitcoin takes a lot of energy to be mined, it does not mean that we actually create more energy to do so most of the time.
Hmm. Yeah, 60%. Well, yeah, 60% of Bitcoin mining energy is renewable sources, from renewable sources, and that's increasing because renewable sources tend to be cheaper, and you want cheap electricity to mine. Otherwise, you're not profitable. So it's like very incentive based. So it makes sense to chase cheap electricity, normally renewable, obviously, and to become more profitable. So yes, it's super important.
More to come on that because I tell you what, none of that makes sense to me. And you guys are talking another language. So Frieda's like, we'll talk about it later. It's like, we do need to talk about it later because for the
No, but
average
Chow,
Joe,
this show, we're doing the show for you, and we're doing the show for the person that doesn't feel comfortable about anything that we're talking about. So even though we might have a couple of cliff notes here, for people to kind of get a bigger, broader idea, does not mean that we don't want to answer your questions and in such detail so that, anybody else out there that has exactly your questions can understand. I know I run into at least one person a day that sees me wearing a Bitcoin shirt or a Bitcoin hat or talk about Bitcoin, and they have exactly the same questions. And I feel like right now we're at the stage in society where where we just have to break it down. And there's no shame in that. I've
Mhm.
been sitting, for my career in bigger boardrooms, and people are always appreciative when you actually hold up the room and you ask a question because probably three other people in the room don't understand it
Yeah.
either.
Mhm.
And so I think there's no shame in that. We want to break it down. We want you as part of the show to get your aha moment and be like, fiat is a shit show, everything in Bitcoin. That's my goal.
Yeah.
okay, then let's go for it then. So the mining of what? Like, are you mining? Like, I actually talked to someone who was going somewhere and doing this mining. And I was like, what? And he showed me like these. It was like I was in a movie. But if you're not mining gold, it's digital mining.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, we call it mining just to like, was it a metaphor analogy to tie it to, the real world or the physical world as to mining gold. But you're not actually obviously not mining, it's digital. But in the most simplest form, it's a bunch of computers all around the world, completely decentralized, trying to guess a really big and random number. And by guessing this number, they're also doing a computational algorithm. And essentially the only way to see if you guess the number correctly is to run it through the algorithm or run it through you know, it's called a hash, but we will get into that. But essentially is to guess a number one at a time, put it through the algorithm and see if you guessed it right. And this is happening right now as we speak. And this random number is incomprehensibly large and random for our human minds to comprehend. There's a great video that I could send you later or
Yeah,
read
it'll link it. See,
about the massive size of like 256-bit encryption, which is a standard. Like the sheer size of these numbers is incomprehensible for our brains to comprehend. But essentially, that's all what's happening is the only way to guess the number, to find the number, is to try one at a time a number, run it through the formula, and see if you guessed it right. And this is happening like right now, a massive amount of times. And when the number is guessed, the person or the computer that guessed the number then wins the right to add another block to the Bitcoin blockchain. And in turn, they get rewarded Bitcoin for their efforts, for their time, for the work they put in to expelling all this electricity and the 10 minutes on average of their time.
So this
and
encryption.
the important part
Okay.
that it comes back down to is that, that it's limited in supply. So even though understanding the algorithm, understanding, how it works is important, that a Bitcoin block is mined on average every 10 minutes. It is something where I think for the first concept is just important that there's 21 million and 21 million will be mined and no more. Um, and ultimately not all of those 21 million will ever be used because a lot of it was lost already. But the limited supply concept is very important when you compare it to the dollar. And I think what you alluded to earlier, Keith, was when you say like, ultimately the US dollar, the creation of more and how easy that is. And this is why it's not a good store of value any longer for us. Because somebody can just arbitrarily say, hey, we're in debt some more, let's print some more. And then we go through this massive inflation. And in the United States, it's like we don't really feel it. If you talk to like folks like Saifedean that has written a beautiful book um, for first time Bitcoin as well, the Bitcoin Standard.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy inflation in his country, where like he understood Bitcoin and actually was able to store his wealth in it while the currency of his country went to shambles.
Mm.
So sorry, Tal, you had a question. I interrupted. I hope you remember.
No, now I'm thinking about something else. Thinking
Uh,
about basically when I think about this, um, well, well, okay, now my mind's going on a few things, but essentially the mining, the computers are what is taking the energy
uh-huh.
to. Okay, so that's why there needs to be so much energy
Yeah,
just
because
to find the.
yeah, yeah. So when the Bitcoin network came online in 2009, it was possible to mine Bitcoin with your laptop, with your home computer. And then as there was advancements in technology, people started doing it with GPUs, graphic processing units, which is, I don't know how much you know about like gaming, but like if you have a nice gaming computer, you're using a lot of GPUs. And then eventually, now mining is done called with these things called ASICs, which is an acronym, which is actually escaping me. I always forget, but essentially, it's a very specific piece of hardware. Like it's a very specific computer, and the only thing it does is mine Bitcoin. Like it can't do anything else. So it's a very specialized computer piece of hardware. But it uses a lot. It consumes a lot of power. I'm not sure how familiar you are with units of, but like we're talking between like 1 to 4 kilowatt. So like your average light bulb's like 60 watts. So think of like maybe is consuming like 700 light bulbs worth of power if you want to think about it that way. If your average light bulb's 60 watts. But and they're very high powered and very efficient and designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that is mine Bitcoin. Um and they consume a lot of power to do it.
Who when the person or the peoples that made this encryption, how is it that that was even created without a massive, like, how is it that it hasn't been debunked? I guess it's some sort of mathematical, I don't know, like, this is like my brain's like, "Huh?" Like, how did I'm still, like, missing a piece here of, like, why it's so hard to mine if someone came up with this whole encryption? Is that what it is?
Wait, sorry, you cut out. The question is why hasn't anybody like been more efficient at guessing the number? Like why hasn't
Can I translate for the sake of detail? I think what happens to anybody that comes into the Bitcoin space is ultimately you owe yourself about 100 hours worth of podcast listening. And why? Because we all have these questions, I think, of, well, this is a computer program. How come it's not hacked yet? How come this actually works the way that it does? And then we try to get into the details of becoming a computer programmer when we're not. And we're trying to just find the flaw in it. And I think I want to bring it back to just like the concept, and like the assumption is, let's assume uh, I had to do this physically. I had to go and listen to like 5 audiobooks. I have a product background, so I don't actually know how to write code, but I do understand a little bit about the concepts of how it all works. And I had to ultimately trust a little bit into these authors of books that told me, hey, listen, it actually was tried to be hacked here, or somebody tried an attack there, and it didn't work out, and here's why it didn't work out. And so I could move away from this, doubting the computer program, because I think we're in that era right now where it's like everybody wants to doubt the computers, but at the same time, our fiat money system is computers. Like when they print money, they don't actually physically print, cold hard cash anymore. They just print a button on a computer or push a button on a computer, and that essentially creates a couple extra digits within some computer system as well, right? So we're actually having competing computer systems here. So for the sake of this conversation, I want us to accept that there is a computer program that works, that has been proven. Bitcoin is what, 15 years old now, right? 2018. Oh, yeah, close
Yeah,
there.
15
Now,
yeah.
and so that it has not been hacked, as the blockchain, and the concept that is hard to understand, I think, for people is that it's just this whole digital thing, right?
hmm
And the question that I get a lot, and Tal, you asked me this too, is how do I even like get a Bitcoin? And like Bitcoin is so expensive now. I mean, we're like at 100K. I don't have 100K in my bank account. And how does that all work?
Mm.
And maybe Keith, like, for a beginner, or like, have you ever had a friend that is like, okay, I'm interested. Like, how does that work? Like, how do you buy a Bitcoin?
Yeah, pretty much every time. That's the normal question, or the normal like, oh my god, but it's 100,000 or whatever. It's like I'm too late. How can I like? It's impossible to. It's like actually no. You can actually literally buy 10% of 1 US cent. That's 1 Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million different units called sats. So, but no, that's pretty much yeah, what everyone assumes is like, oh no, it's you need to be rich to own it. It's we're way too past that. It's like no, it's very obtainable and very divisible, divisible. Thankfully, yeah. But it's the usual question for sure.
But physically, like, so I like to explain it as in, a lot of people are familiar with a Venmo account.
Mm.
And so, like, you have an app on your phone, which is Venmo, which you can send ultimately $1 from me to you. And it functions now with a QR code that you can scan, or a simple address, or some sort of, if it's an at somebody or whatever, that is Venmo. And so when I send Bitcoin, the interface actually looks the same. So I choose to use Strike, for example. Strike is a Bitcoin only exchange where you can buy Bitcoin, but you can also send Bitcoin as well as dollars to your friends. So they kind of combine both of those functions. And if I was to like want to send Tao money, Tao, you would have to download an account with Strike, which is an app on your phone, and you would have to KYC. And there's a question that comes in: what is KYC? Know your customer. This is something that all banks do in the US. When you want to create a bank account, they need to understand that you're not some crazy person, that you have a history, that you are a real person in order to create a bank account. And so they want to know your birthday. They usually want a form of ID and all these things. The same happens when you onboard onto a very, user-friendly app that allows you to send and receive Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin with.
Mhm.
So you would go sign up and go through this KYC process, and then you have a wallet. And then once you have that wallet, I can instantly send you Bitcoin. Um, the magic about Bitcoin is, and I think a lot of people don't understand that because the fiat world has done such magic with arbitrary on hold numbers, is when I send money to you, Tal, in a bank account, right? Or via Venmo, it may instantly show up in your interface,
Mhm.
but you don't actually own that money at that time. It's kind of like I sent it to you, and the platform says, hey, here's the $5 that Frieda sent Tal, and it's instantly visible in your interface. But behind the scenes, that money is actually still circulating in our bank accounts. If everything was going to shut down today, that money probably wouldn't be in your bank account quite yet. Um, so there's a delay also in how we send money, as well as certain fees associated sometimes when I send overseas.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to Bitcoin, um, there's instant settlement. This is another thing that um, the banks, I think, are a little bit in fear of, where, I can send, I don't know, 10 sats to you, Tal, and it's like an instant settlement. Like when it hits your account, it's actually there, it's yours. You could take it offline, hide it under your blanket, do whatever with it, and nobody could take it away from you.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's when I bet 20 years ago this would definitely be more appreciated. But now since we're so dependent on credit cards and debit cards and live much more digitally, it's something that we don't think about. But it's actually whenever I like get someone to download a Lightning wallet or whatever and send them Bitcoin, that's one of the big things I'm like, hey, this is actually yours now. Like if you want, you can turn around right now and either A, cash this out if you wanted to, or B, like literally spend it right now. Like it's yours. It's your money to do whatever you want with it. You don't have to wait for banks to clear it and everybody to get involved and take their cut. Um, yeah, I think because we live so digitally, it's something that people don't really think about and don't really consider to be of an advantage until you get screwed over by banks with like maybe you miss some kind of payment or whatever because you didn't transfer money fast enough to from one account to another account and it's held up for 3 to 5 business days, but it's your money and just moving it from one account to the other, but it has to clear through 5 banks in the meantime. And I think it's one of those things you don't truly appreciate the instant settlement until it screws you over, which has happened to me in the process
How?
of moving to the Bitcoin standard. Just because in the whole process of like switching over to the Bitcoin standards, I use Strike for like everything. Like I use the bill pay service, but just like having to consolidate money and have like just like a rearrangement of money and consolidating funds and doing like just the whole process of that and like taking some money out of like a brokerage account or whatever, moving into this to buy the Bitcoin. And then I have to wait to actually send the Bitcoin in this case because you're buying it and needs to settle on that end. But once you actually have it, obviously it's yours. But just in that sense, so just the whole money movement thing and just being like slightly screwed over because like it didn't clear fast enough before the other bank decided to try to take it and move it elsewhere. No, Bitcoin, yeah, it's instant and
So,
yeah.
so just to explain a little bit of the terminology here. So, being on the Bitcoin standard means that, and you just spoke to that, that you are pretty much living on the Bitcoin standard.
Mhm.
That means that you, when you understood Bitcoin to a certain degree, you said, I'm going to transact as much of my life in Bitcoin as I can. And I'm going to touch dollars as little as possible. I'm
Mm.
going to put most of my savings into Bitcoin. I'm going to try to do bill pay. There's apps now that allow you to do bill pay through Strike again, um, through Bitcoin. And so, first of all, that's true conviction right there. Like, what are like if you know? Because Tal asked me the other day, and I'm talking a lot, and I will give it back to you, Tal. Um,
No,
you know
go for it.
what why 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 would I even bother? You know, let's say I don't have like thousands and millions of dollars that I'm sitting on right now to invest somewhere. Money's not burning a hole in my pocket. Why would I even bother looking at this?
Um, if we're completely ignoring the financial part of it, it boils down to I don't want to support the system that we live in anymore. And to channel my inner Jeff Booth, who's another person, Tal in the space, very uh respected mind. Great person, great mind. He has a great book, The Price of Tomorrow. I recommend it. But nonetheless, pretty much, I wanna give my time and my energy to a system that I believe in and that I wanna support. I no longer wanna support the fiat-based dollar system that we live in, which is very corrupt and just terrible. And so I am choosing to focus my time and my energy in a better system that I believe in for a better future, being the Bitcoin system. So non-financially, that is why I decided to do it. Financially, obviously, it depends on your financial situation. But if you are in a situation that you're able to save and you can have a low time preference, then I mean, if you save in the dollar, you're losing 10% of your purchasing power per year. Nominally, it may not look like that. Much like the stock market will always go up nominally, but if you look at it priced in gold or in Bitcoin, it's not doing well. Um, and because they print about 10% more money they create 10% more money per year in the US about, which means anybody that has the money already loses 10% of their value. Much like the price of homes, the value of homes and the value of gas and the value of eggs and the value of milk is not increasing. It's just the money, the units
Mm.
of paper that you're using to price them in or just to buy them with are losing their value.
Mhm.
So Bitcoin is staying, I mean, for this, yeah, Bitcoin's staying flat. We think it's doing this. It's doing this. The dollar's just doing this. So it seems that Bitcoin's growing and growing and growing. But if you zoom out and really look at it, it's just that anything you're using to price the Bitcoin in, whether the dollar, the euro, oil, whatever, it's losing. A house, if you look at the average price of a home 10 years ago, 5 years ago, today, it becomes cheaper over time. Because as we said, it's fixed. It's an absolute true scarcity. So no matter what happens, there's only 21 million, while there's more dollars tomorrow than there are today, which means the dollars that exist today have less value tomorrow. Did I get off topic with that? I'm not sure. What was the
No, I think we're good. And even, what you just said there in side
Yeah,
for the audio listeners is you said everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. And that's a
exactly.
quote in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And the other thing I think that comes up, and we'll wrap it up here in a minute, is people, regular folks that see Bitcoiners being very enthusiastic about Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. I for sure, from members of my family, um, usually the older ones, get accused of living in a bubble, and that I'm in this echo chamber of information where I am just sitting surrounded by Bitcoiners, and therefore I have no other vision on the world anymore. Um, what would you say to that, Keith?
Um, I would say that it's important to, I don't know, just be informed and to never, it's never too late to obviously to learn something new, and it's never too late to really just be woken up to the current problems with the current system and the current world, and that there is a better way to a better future. And there really just is never too late, obviously, to learn more, to be enlightened, to be unplugged. Um, yeah, that's really what I would say. Is that it's never too late, truly, as long as you're still alive, obviously. But yeah, that's what I would say. It's never too late. Never too late to learn more. It's never too late to be proven wrong, because Bitcoin's kind of like an ego test as well, even if you don't truly realize it. But to fully accept Bitcoin and to fully like understand it and to get it and decide to like convert over to it and use it, you need to acknowledge that everything you thought you knew was wrong when it comes to money and how you saw the world, uh, because it's true actually. In a Bitcoin, which obviously we believe here is that it's the best money and it's the way towards a better future. It proves everything that we believe that we thought we knew to be wrong. And to fully get it and accept it, you have to admit to yourself that you were wrong about, well, I guess everything that you thought you knew about money and the way the system works and the way forward, I guess. Yes.
Any last questions, Tal?
Yeah, you know me and like getting personal. How has it affected your life now, Keith? Like, does it affect your conscience? Does it affect like the way you even activate in like what you buy? And like, how does it affect your life now with this choice that you've made?
So I'm full time Bitcoin standard since like October, which means I don't own any dollars,
Wow.
which is cool. um, yeah. So in terms of like, so the my so I, people like you'll sometimes hear people say like never sell your Bitcoin. I think that's wrong. Um, because ultimately we need to use it as money because it is money. And if we don't use it as money, and if we just turn it into digital gold, then it will have failed, I believe. And eventually, if it doesn't succeed as money, as a medium of exchange, it will ultimately also fail as a store of value. But nonetheless, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So because the only thing I own is Bitcoin, it's the best money, and I believe that obviously it's hard money, it's good money. I definitely think twice for sure about buying stuff or like spending money. Because like, is it really worth parting with the Bitcoin to buy this thing? Like, is it really worth the Bitcoin? Obviously, live your life. It's important to live your life and enjoy your life. But at the same time, it's like, do I really need this thing? I think we're also trained, especially in the US, that we're very consumerism. We're taught to like, you want to spend your money, buy stuff. It's good. Like, blah, blah, blah. Don't keep money, blah, 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 spend it. So in that sense, from the financial standpoint, yes, it's taught me to be, I guess, even more so conservative than I already was. But in terms of everything else, I guess it's more carefree. Obviously, it's volatile, but it's the more you know and the more you learn, it's volatile to the upside over time, always. And it's kind of like the more you know, the less you diversify when it comes to this kind of stuff. It just helps me live more peacefully and more carefree to know that one, my money's my money. Um, no one's gonna steal it from me. And even though it doesn't matter what the U.S. government does, what the Federal Reserve does, it's not gonna. I mean, yeah, their decisions affect the exchange rate of the Bitcoin, but ultimately, I'm very confident. And we have 15 years of history and a lot of logic and a lot of math that shows it's volatile, but to the upside. So really, it just allows me to live more peacefully, more carefree. I don't have to constantly be checking stuff, like constantly checking like stocks or like bank accounts and constantly chasing yield, like high yield savings accounts or whatever. Like I know, like we spend a lot of time. I don't know if you ever thought about it, but you probably spend a lot of time thinking about how you can have more money, how you can like make more money with your money, and how you can essentially, yeah, just have more money. But when it's just a lot more freeing. Just like I just know whenever 'cause I still get paid in the USD, I immediately just convert all the Bitcoin, and it's just nice knowing that like I believe in it. A lot of math, logic, science backs it up. A lot of history backs it up. If you zoom out and just look at everything, it makes too much sense. But ultimately, and if there's in the very super off slight chance that it fails, honestly, that's fine. No, I mean, it's not fine, but like, I rather go broke believing in something and following like my heart and following what I believe is true, like by being true to myself. And I'd rather follow that path and like live or die with it rather than continue to live in the dollar and support the dollar and just be a slave to the system. So that's kind of, yes, how it
Mm.
has changed my life for the better.
I will also add that it's right now, 15 years in, we are at a very good point actually to enter because we've proven it out more, right? If you entered the Bitcoin scene like 10 years ago, yes, people look at you and they're like, "Oh my God, you made so much money if you were able to hold it," right? I mean,
Mhm.
not many people bought in at a very low price. The people that bought in as like at like 30 cents a Bitcoin, they sold it at 60 cent, when it doubled and they were like super happy. And there's sometimes, Twitter posts that get recycled from that time when it's like a Bitcoin anniversary or something, just to, show how the human mind also works. What do we think is good and what's good enough and how far it can actually go. And I think like that's also one aspect that I love about Bitcoin, like this philosophical aspect of, first of all, I've yet to meet a true hard Bitcoiner that doesn't have some like idealistic or philosophy aspect to discovering it. There's heart in it. For me, it's like really like it's the money of the heart. It's the money of the people. There's a true connection. You don't get along with necessarily all the people in the world, but I feel like there's a good base here in the Bitcoin
Yeah,
community.
agreed. Because yeah, when you meet new Bit or other Bitcoiners, or just that Prague and BTC Prague, my second Bitcoin conference, and yeah, it's great to spend time with Bitcoiners because you already know that like fundamentally you're like have this similar values at least, and a similar way of like viewing the world, and that you ended up in the same place, and that you value similar things at least. So it's normally very easy, yeah. But I mean, obviously, there's people that you don't get along with in every community, but for the most part, yeah, it's very Bitcoiners tend to get along with each other and feel comfortable with each other. Because at times it can feel very alienizing to isolating, I guess is the word, to be a real big Bitcoiner and like truly like it and like talking about it and like just like being in the space and all that good stuff. But from the outside, you kind of seem crazy. Which I totally get it why we would seem crazy. Like you're like, hey, you should really like look at this. Like you don't want to like use the words like, like well, I just sent like a video to I've been trying to get my friend to like at least start going down the rabbit holes. I think it'll really help her in her life. And like try not to just be like super seem like you're trying to like, I don't know, like seem like you're in a cult, I guess. Be like, it'll like change your life. Like you'll never see life the same way, or like blah 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 stuff like that. But so at times, yeah, it could feel that way. That it's like, oh my god, no one understands me. Or until you find another Bitcoin, you're like, hey, we know how we each both feel in our home lives and our amongst our friends and family that think we're crazy or blah blah, make fun of us or whatever maybe.
And I think terminology wise, I just want to re explain what going down the rabbit hole means too, to all the people that have never heard that before. So that's really the process of understanding Bitcoin and ultimately getting Bitcoin. When you're down the rabbit hole, you understand why Bitcoin. And going down the rabbit hole is kind of a journey along the way of that. And, and then our show is called orange pilling, right? So like the orange pilling is part of that as well. It's kind of the same process. If you take the orange pill, then
Yeah.
you understand Bitcoin.
Which does Tal know the origin of why it's the rabbit hole and why the orange pill?
Oh, please enlighten us.
Ah, well, so obviously, well, I mean, obviously, but the rabbit hole is a reference to Alice in Wonderland. Going into Wonderland, down the rabbit hole. And then the orange pill would be the famous Matrix scene from the Matrix when Morpheus offers Neo the red pill or the blue pill. I forget. I always forget which is which. It's the red to go to learn the truth.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
He offers either red, take the red pill, and he even says, "Take the red pill," and like I'm paraphrasing, but you'll see how far down the rabbit hole really goes. Or take the blue pill, you'll wake up tomorrow, you'll just continue living your life as you were in the Matrix. So the orange pill being Bitcoin, being take the orange pill, go down the rabbit hole, and learn about exit the Matrix. That is the fiat system, and that's where it comes from. Yeah.
And this is kind of the beauty also, why orange? Orange was selected by the community as the Bitcoin color.
Was
And
it?
it was, yeah, this is something that just comes out of the community, right? Like the Bitcoin symbol, the Bitcoin B was created by the community and adopted by the community. They're still fighting over what the Satoshi symbol really should be. But yeah, there's forums and all these things, and then ultimately, what most people use kind of gets used. I do believe there's an official website that people actually post on as far as like the official color code and things like that. Would actually be fun interviewing somebody that's in the Bitcoin design space or designer
Yeah.
involved in that decision making. Maybe we can get somebody on. But yeah, I just love the aspect. I've always thought like, oh, okay, well, if we all want to have like equal say or something, like I don't believe that equal is really equal, right? Like I believe that like men and women don't have equal things going on. Like we all do different things differently. We have different um uh gifts given to us and we just approach situations completely different. I know me and my husband, same situation, completely different personalities approaching it a completely different way, right? And different tactics. And so I just, was always from being younger, exploring of how this would even work. How would a world work where everybody actually had a good say in it? And,
Mm.
Bitcoin kind of is the first community that I've come into where I'm like, wow, this kind of works like from the ground up, where people just have an interest in something and they bring it to the community and everybody is willing that speaks up to do the work. So you're volunteering your time right now in this podcast, right?
Mm.
What drives us to want to educate other people? It is not because we will be richer at the end. It is ultimately for me, like I understood it. It opened such a brain space for me. I was like, oh, I gotta tell my friends about this. This is like freedom in my head. And it somehow comes to me through a medium that I was so afraid of and hated. I despised money as such because it always felt like such a chore or such an evil doing thing for some reason, money.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, I agree entirely. And the money thing, I feel like, unfortunately, obviously, the whole crypto world, because Bitcoin's not crypto, Tau. Uh,
Mm.
I mean, it is a cryptocurrency, but we say Bitcoin and then crypto. They're different. But anyway, um, I think there's one friend in particular that I recently mentioned. I think she's not interested in money and probably definitely sees it as like investment number go up. I think the rest of a lot of the world obviously sees it that way. So it's always something I try to tell people. It's like, it's not about the money. It's not about being rich. It's like Bitcoin's like once you see it and you understand it and you begin to learn, you realize it's like it's actually kind of an activism movement. Um, and just it's not about the money. Um, it's just about a better world, a better community, better society where
You
everyone
get
has
to
their own.
do you get to do what you want to do,
Mm.
and you get the means to do it automatically.
Yeah, and everybody, yeah, yeah. That's like the meme. There's a meme towel, in this community. It's like you can just do things. Is kind of the meme, but there's no permission.
Mm.
You don't need permission to do anything in Bitcoin. And in the whole, I don't know if
Mm.
you're a Nostr or anything, but in the whole like free open source software, and the whole space, like the beauty of it is you don't need permission to do anything. If you want, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can build your own apps. You can do whatever you want on Bitcoin. You don't need anyone's permission. While in our current system in the fiat, you need permission for everything. You need permission from your bank to actually use your money. I'm sure you've maybe encountered that. But with Bitcoin, you don't need permission. You just do things, and it's great to live in that way for sure because we're not used to it, and it's becoming more and more normalized to ask permission. And we should not be doing that. Not needing to have to ask permission. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Keith. We went a
Yeah.
little bit over, but that's great. We had a great discussion.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun. It was a good time.
Amazing.
Great.
Amazing.
And we will post all the links for future info.
Yes, thank you for sure.
Okay.